Welcome to the fourth issue of Boro Backtrack, a new weekly feature from Tees Life in association with Domino's Teesside. Before I introduce this week's guests, we all know that football and pizza are two of the best things in life, and we're grateful to Domino's Teesside for bringing two of those together to support Boro Backtrack. Now, this week's guests were part of perhaps the most exciting era in Boro's history. Superstar internationals who signed for mega bucks and mega wages came and went. It was Ravanelli, Emerson, Juninho, Emerson, Barmby, Branca. But two English lads, Craig Hignett and Steve Vickers, remained regulars on the team sheet. Maybe Higgy not as much as should have been, and I'm sure he'll tell us not as much as he wanted to be. During those rollercoaster years, all under Bryan Robson, it seemed, but we'll also talk about the manager that signed them as well. So under the radar, unsung, no doubt they'll tell us underpaid, but they played a big part in Boro's history. 2 promotions, 3 cup finals, the move from Ayresome, moved to Riverside Stadium. It was never boring. Higgy and Steve, welcome to Boro Backtrack.
Afternoon, Jeff.
So, it seems like sometimes it seems a long time ago, and sometimes it seems like only yesterday that you were both on the Riverside pitch. But it all started, of course, at Ayresome Park, and a certain man called Lennie Lawrence brought you both in. Higgy, first of all, I mean, what do you remember of Lennie? Because he's one of, a bit like yourself, an unsung hero.
Lennie was great. He was. I've got a lot to thank Lennie for. Obviously, he brought me from Crewe to Middlesbrough. They were in the Premier League at the time. It was the first year of the Premier League in '92. He'd seen me playing for Crewe, I think, in a friendly against Middlesbrough the season before. And obviously Ron Bowen had been to watch me a few times and ended up in Teesside. So I've got a lot to thank Lennie for. You know, it was different. I have to say that the coaching that I was getting at Crewe was unbelievable under Dario Gradi. And then when I came to the Premier League with Middlesbrough, it was a bit different. They expected you to know the game. So I wasn't coached as much, although John Pick did his bit, and he was great for all of us. But it was certainly different and took a little bit of getting used to. But Lennie was he's top man, Lennie. You know, he was good to get on with, good laugh, had a good sense of humour, knew the game, obviously, had been around it for a long time. So yeah, it was different, but it was what I wanted. You know, you want to play in the Premier League, and he gave me the chance to do that.
Steve, he gave you a chance to move. I mean, you'd done, I think, 400 games for Tranmere before you came to the Boro, and you were only 22 or something. No, you were about 25, were you, by the time you came to the Boro?
Something like that, I think it was, yeah, 24, 25. Yeah, Lennie offered to give me the chance to come up here, and I jumped at the chance really because I felt my time at Tranmere had run its course. I felt that we'd probably got as far as we were going to get at the time, and I thought I was coming to a bigger club, which I was, and I was proved right by coming to the club that, you know, we had a cracking team at the time, and some good young lads in the team as well. And I think I only played under Lennie for about 6 months, but obviously before Robbo came in. But yeah, I'm the same as Ziggy. I'll be, you know, forever grateful to him for bringing me to the club.
And so, I mean, the rest of both of your careers, I think you're right, apart from maybe about 3 games for you, Steve, at the end under Steve McLaren. But the rest of you, it was under Bryan Robson. So what was Robbo like as a gaffer, Iggy?
Well, I think obviously Robbo was a legend, and you know, Man United, England captain. They don't come much bigger than his name in the game, and to get someone like him, you know, Steve Gibson, done unbelievable. I mean, the excitement that it brought and the change around it brought in the football club was frightening. Just with his name alone, Robbo would attract people, and he did. As a manager, he was obviously learning. It was his first role. He knew how he wanted to do things. Brought Viv and Gordon in, who were a good foil for him. But he was learning all the time. You know, I think the manager that he was in the end was nothing like the manager he was at the beginning. Obviously very driven, a winner, very competitive. That was him as a player. But I think he was, he knew what he wanted. And that first season, I mean, he couldn't have got off to a better start to be tried. You know, I think we won the first 5 or 6 games at the start of the season, and it set him on the way really. But he brought in some fabulous players, and it was a building process. So he knew he couldn't bring in the superstars because we were in the Championship. He couldn't bring in the people he wanted to straight away. So he had to build a team to get out the Championship, and that's not easy. But he managed to do it the first time of asking, and then obviously the rest is history. When we got into the Premier League, the names that he could attract were anyone in the world really.
Clayton Blackmore might debate with you that he didn't bring a superstar in right from the start, you know. So,
yeah, I think Clayton was just happy to play a game. He'd been about 500 games at Man United without playing much. I think he played about 10 games a season at the start. But Blackie was a great player. He obviously was a talented lad, knew the game as well. Been under Robbo at Man U, so Robbo knew him. And he was a good character. You know, Clayton used to get the mickey taken out of him quite a lot, but he was he took it really well, and he'd just laugh it off, and he'd come back with the odd 1 or 2 lines. But Clayton was probably more interested in golf at the time than he was at playing. But
I've got a little story about my memory of Clayton Blackmore. Actually, is he got one on me? Is that the first team photo call, and it was at Ayresome Park. Even though we were about to move to the Riverside. So it was at the end of that first season, 94-95 of Bryan Robson. And we were doing the photo call. And of course, I was with the photographer trying to tell you all to stop touching each other's knees and get you all in a orderly fashion. And I says, right, I think we're ready to take it. And Clayton goes, I think we're missing something, aren't we? And I says, what's that? And he says, well, little thing sits in front of us. And I'm going, no, what? And he says, the championship trophy, you know, the thing that we fought all season to win. And it was still in I had to go running into the dressing rooms to go and get it. A little thing like that can easily be, it's not often needed on the first team photo calls for the Boro, unfortunately, but and that year it definitely was, and I had no idea what he was talking about for a while. Steve, what about yourself, Bryan Robson? I mean, he was Iggy said it, he was a legend, but was there how different was he from Lennie Lawrence? I mean, Lennie was low profile. I know you clearly had a lot of affection for him, but
yeah, absolutely. I mean, I just remember the day that Bryan came in with Viv, the first time we actually saw them. I just remember thinking to myself, Jesus, this is, you know, this ex-England captain walking through the gates here, and he's going to be our manager. And I thought, you know, you think to yourself, oh yeah, now it's going to be exciting times here. You could feel it was going to be exciting. But that team that Bryan inherited, I mean, a lot of them lads, you know, were part of that squad from Lennie's era, you know, and we made up the nucleus of that team and that squad. So, you know, you give credit to Bryan, obviously, but to start with, that team, the majority of that team that got promotion from Ayresome Park that year under Bryan was Lennie's team. So, yeah, you've got to give him credit for that.
I was going to ask you about that because we did win promotion that first season, and it was the only the top one that was automatic that season. I think that's the only year that's ever been the case. And no, you know, second place only meant the playoffs. So we had to be first, and we did it late in the final week of the season. But that team was very good, and then we, of course, things happened, and we ended up back in the Championship a few years later, and again were promoted. So we had 2 promotion teams within 3 years. You were both part of the 2 sides. I'm going to put you on the spot. Which was the better promotion team or promotion squad, 95 or 98? Iggy?
If I was to pick one, I'd probably say 98. Just there was. I just think we had a little bit more about us. I think we were a little bit stronger, a little bit more creative. Obviously, Mace made a massive difference to that side as well. Andy Townsend, people like that who were coming in. We had a little bit more, call us a bit more solid, a little bit with a little bit more going forward. But I mean, you know, we brought Marco Branca in that season as well. Who, you know, to sign someone like him, the '95 team couldn't have done that. Like Stevie says, a lot of that '95.
Signed Uwe Fuchs.
Signed Uwe, yeah, but Uwe was under the radar. No one knew him. Everyone knew Marco Branca. But both had a really good impact on the football club from the off. And I just think that the 98 team for me probably was just a bit better than the other one.
What about yourself, Steve? Would you agree?
Yeah, I agree with Iggy, definitely. I mean, the 95 team was full of hard-working lads. We had a good mix of young lads with experience, hard-working. I don't think we had any outstanding individuals. Where you go to the 98 team, we still had them. We still had the hard-working ability in the team, but we also had, a bit of class. We added a bit of class to the team with people like Merce, like Iggy said. Andy Townsend was there. Schwarzer came in. Is that right? Yeah, Branca,
yeah.
Marco Branca. Gianluca was there at the time. So
I think Jaime Moreno came back as well, didn't he? Jaime came back.
I think he did, yeah.
As well.
Well, just as a reminder, I think in the 97-98 one, when we needed a few new signings, we went out and signed not only Marco Branca, but we signed Alan Armstrong, Hamilton Ricard, and Paul Gascoigne.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's not bad for a promotion push.
No, it's not. And that's the difference, I think. It was Middlesbrough then, obviously, we'd moved stadiums and the whole place was a lot more attractive to everyone. So it was probably easier to attract them people. But you do need the facilities to do it. And obviously, with us having Rockcliffe and with us having that stadium, that was a massive change for the football club because we literally could bring anyone to it. And we almost did. The season we got relegated when the 3 points went, for example, the names that were being touted about were frightening, really. We had Juninho already and Emerson and Ravanelli, but the people who were going to join them, Roberto Carlos was mentioned, wasn't he? Paul Ince was mentioned before that. So there was a few more Brazilians mentioned. So, I don't know what would have happened if we'd have stayed up. It would have been fun to stay because that was always for me and Steve, probably we felt the same where we knew we could sign anyone in the world at the time. And you were always wondering, will I get pushed out if a superstar comes or because it was inevitable. It was always going to happen. But, it never happened, if you like. We never did get pushed out. So it was exciting to see who was coming in because you always want to play with the best players. And we were bringing in the best players. It was just great for the football club.
There's a delivery for you, Higgy.
The missus and she's ordered all kinds. So
it's the same here as well.
None of them are for me.
Now, you've mentioned his name there, Ravanelli. I've got to ask you both about that. Fabrizio Ravanelli, he was fantastic goal scorer, but a bit of a character too off the pitch. Is it fair to say, Steve?
Character? In what way?
Well, you tell me.
Yeah, I mean, everybody knows Rav, the footballer, the great goal scorer. And to be fair, he was when he came in, he was a great pro to start with, Rav. He had a great attitude to start with. Like I say, scored lots of goals for the team. But as things got harder and time went on, you started to realise that Rav was in it for himself. For me, this is my opinion. When things got tough, there would be things said in the media which really upset a lot of people. And it also, I don't know, whenever he went back to Italy, there would be things said and it would get back into the media again. And I think everybody knows the situation with the FA Cup final. Everything came to a head before we actually went to play the FA Cup final.
Yeah, I believe Curtis had an exchange of views, was it?
Well, I think Curtis had his exchange of views in training, I think it was. We had a training session.
And Neil Cox, I think, got involved too.
Coxie, yeah. Well, it was like a typical FA Cup morning, apparently, where you come down for your breakfast, the newspapers are on the tables for everybody to sit there and read while you're having your breakfast, and the majority of the papers were full with stuff that was detrimental to the team, to the area, to certain players. And I think it just all came to a head. People were fed up reading about it. And, Coxie made a point of saying it. And I think Coxie had done a piece for one of the newspapers. I can't remember which one it was. And I think Rav had got a hold of it and read it. And I think he was ready to go to war with Coxie at the time. It was, so it was a...
I think we've all heard stories that it went beyond exchange of views, isn't it?
Well, yeah, I mean, I remember coming down to reception, all suited and booted, decent suit on, and standing there. Then all of a sudden, somebody just ignited the the bonfire, and it all went bang. And so yeah, it was a strange day, absolute strange day from start to finish, and that was just one of the things. I mean, like I said, as things got tough, Rav seemed to become more and more distant to everybody. There were even situations where he would, get changed, come in, get changed, not speak to anybody, train, get changed, have a shower, get changed, and then go home. That's what it was like towards the end, and things were difficult enough at the time. So let's just say there was one or two people not rowing in the same direction as everybody else.
Iggy, was it this lack of respect, was it, that Ravanelli had for?
I don't know if it was a lack of respect, but he was obviously a top player who'd been at the top and he'd won European Cups and played for Italy, and so whether he thought he was better than some of the stuff that was going on, that might have been the case. I mean, I remember seeing him at Milan Airport. I don't know if you remember this, Stevie, but it was when he didn't come back for pre-season. He was still our player. And we went away to Italy. We were in, was it Pinzola we went to, where we flew into Milan Airport.
Did we go up into the mountains? We were up in the mountains.
Yeah, we went up into the mountains. And then when we were coming back, we were in Milan Airport, and Rav was there with his entourage. I think he was going to talk to Everton. And he'd seen all of us, and he'd ignored everyone. And as we were on the bus, he just said to me, "Are you Higgy, you're all right?" And I thought, so I said, "Yeah, I'm good, Rav, are you?" He went, yes. And when I sat down, I don't know who it was, there was a couple of lads who were like that. Why is he talking to you and not us? And they were having a go at me because he talked to me. But I always got on all right with him. He did say things when he went back to Italy. You don't know if that was lost in translation. Probably not. But I used to laugh at how blunt he was and how direct he was with people. I mean, sometimes he'd do things that you'd want to do yourself, but you wouldn't. So if he was sat down having his meal with the rest of the lads and someone had come over for an autograph, he'd kick off with them and he'd say, no, go away, come back after, come back. And you just think, to be that big, he must have been fed up with it, because everywhere he went, he must have got people who were coming and wanting an autograph or wanting a picture. And you could see why he was a little bit fed up, but he was proper blunt with people.
Well, he was the one. I remember he was bluntest with was Mikkel Beck usually for 90 minutes on a Saturday.
God love Becky. Yeah, God love him for it, because it was hard to watch sometimes. I mean, there was sometimes where he'd run over to the bench and he'd be saying to the bench, "Get him off," and you'd think you can't do that with other people. So so as long as it took someone to have a pop at him, I thought that might have happened sooner, because you don't treat your fellow players like that. As frustrated as you can get with people sometimes, and we've all been frustrated on the football pitch, there's a line, and sometimes you cross the line. Certainly with Becky, he crossed the line. But like I say, I got on all right with him. When he was at Derby, I seen him. We were playing. I was at Blackburn, and he played for Derby. And he was walking around the gardens of the hotel. And I was rooming with one of the lads. I think I was rooming with two guys, and we've opened the window and he's walking past with his brother, and I started throwing the oranges at him from up at top and hiding. So I'd throw oranges and he was getting fuming with it. And then I'd throw an apple at him and his brother. And then later we went down and he was looking at trying to find out where the room was. And as I went down later on, he looked at me and I looked at him and he went, "That was you, wasn't it?" I said, "Yeah." I was throwing all kinds at you. He just started laughing. But I always get on all right with him. And in fact, since he was close to getting the Bradford job, and I'd had a phone call to say, "Look, will you go in with Rav and help him?" Which would have been mental, if I'm honest.
When was that, Higgy?
That was about two, maybe 3 years ago, two and a half seasons probably, before Simon Grayson got the Bradford job.
Ravanelli as Bradford manager. I can't quite picture it, but there you go.
He was very close to getting it, but listen, I think now he keeps saying he wants to come back and manage Middlesbrough, doesn't he? And
what do you think?
Listen, I think Steve Gibson would have something to say about that with the state he left his Ranger over in when he left. But he was a character, do you know what I mean? There's no getting away from
He's
it.
still got to pay for his milk, the milk bill that he left.
Well, the milkman ended up getting his money. I don't know where the rest of the stuff went from the house he had, but he certainly, there's certainly stories about Rav when he was here. But like you say, like Stevie says, great professional, great finisher. You could see why he'd done what he'd done. He was very, very single-minded, and I think like all goal scorers, you have to have a degree of being selfish, and he certainly was that.
We interviewed Steve McLaren on here recently, and he described a certain Alan Boksic as a maverick, but a brilliant player. Steve, I mean, Higgy, I know that you'd gone by the time Boksic came in, but
yeah.
How do you compare Boksic and Ravanelli, Steve? Having seen them both, I mean, do you know what? Well, the more I think about it, the more there's certain similarities in what they did for the club and what they could be like on a bad day.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like I said before, Rav was a great goal scorer, but for me, he was predominantly one-footed. Obviously, he scored a lot of goals with his left foot. But for me, Alan Boksic, when he came in, seeing him day to day, he could finish inside the 18-yard box, left foot, right foot. So there were times as a defender, he didn't know which way to send him for the best, and I thought he was outstanding as a finisher. So yeah, I mean, Alan, I would put up there slightly above Rav as a finisher. I know I might surprise a few people, but yeah, seeing him day to day. I mean, I think I spoke to you yesterday, and I said that we played a pre-season game just after we'd signed Rav. From Juventus. We went back to Italy, and Alan played up front with Del Piero, so that was a pre-season game and a half. I remember coming off, I think I twisted blood, and it was a really tough game. And I think he was in his prime then at Juventus. And,
he played. Remember, he played down the left, Stevie, didn't he? Remember when Curtis was playing right back, and he'd give Curtis 5 yards, and Curtis isn't slow. Curtis is quick when he gets going, and
that's right.
And he'd give him 5 yards over about 15 or 20 yards, and he'd done him. And I remember thinking,
he was a big fella as well. He was a big, strong lad as well, you know, and he was really powerful as well. But I saw him finish left and right foot in training day after day, and he was tremendous. You know, you could send him one way and he'd just smash it in the top corner, and the same on the other way as well. He was unbelievable as a finisher. And the only other person I've seen so calm inside the 18-yard box like that, not trying to smash the ball, not trying to break the net, was John Aldridge at Tranmere when I started at Tranmere. Aldo never put his foot through the ball to finish. He would always score with inside that 18-yard box, you know. And he was fantastic finisher. And Boksic was out of the same, you know, in the same vein. There
was we heard a few stories about Alan Boksic from Steve McLaren and his coaching team, that he was a bit of a like you say, a maverick, and not necessarily. Is it fair to say not a team player?
Alan, I think he was. I remember one morning he hadn't turned in for training, so we'd all got ready and went down for training. And then I think Steve McLaren had dispatched the doc over to his house in Hutton Rugby, because the club had a house in Hutton Rugby which they let out to Alan. And the doc had gone across to see what was wrong with him, so he drove across, got out of his car, walked down his drive, knocked on the door. Obviously the chain's on. Alan opens the door, and the doc says, Alan, why aren't you in training? Why aren't you coming to training? What's up? And he went, I'm not coming. And he just slammed the door in the doc's face, and that was it. He wouldn't answer the door. He became a ruling to himself, really. But I don't know. He was, like you say,
wasn't there a story about a cup game at Macclesfield that he wouldn't play in because the dressing room didn't have air dryers?
I can't remember that one.
Because I need to dry my hair after the game, and it's got.
Is that right?
And stuff in the changing room.
We've heard some excuses. We've heard. I would have thought that would be more likely for another one I was going to ask you about. It would have needed a hairdryer. Emerson. And he was also famous for going AWOL at just the wrong time as well, wasn't he?
Do you know what? Emo wasn't. He wasn't a Brazilian, Emo. There's no chance he was Brazilian, because Emo liked the cold. He liked cold showers, and he liked getting them after training. And he wasn't like Junie, where Junie needed a sunbed to make himself feel all right, and he used to go and have it. Emo was the opposite. he got stuck into the culture and everything really from day one, and he was always happy, he was always smiling, he just looked like he loved what he did, and it was infectious. But as well as that, what a player. I mean, probably the strongest player I've ever played with. You know, you could be under pressure the last 5 minutes and give a ball to Emo, and he'd just go and wonder with the ball, and people would be bouncing off him. And I remember the game against Inter Milan in pre-season. Remember when it all kicked off? And
that was Willie Madron's benefit game, I think. He won it down at the Riverside.
I think it was. But they were getting really naughty. There's a couple of been smashed, and Emo he ended up bullying about 4 or 5 of them when he was running with the ball. It was unbelievable to watch, and that's when I looked at him and thought, wow, this lad's going to be brilliant for us. And he was. I mean, the skill that he had, apart from his strength and how good he was technically, the skill that he had. I mean, some of the things he used to do in the boxes, it was embarrassing.
What about his strikes, though? The power he could hit the ball, could strike the ball, unbelievable.
His legs were huge, weren't they? How he used to. He didn't used to push off them. He used to like shuffle when he used to run. I don't know whether that's because his legs were too heavy to lift up properly, but he was a proper strong unit. I mean, I've played with some strong lads, but he was, like I say, you could give him the ball and say, go and keep that for 5 minutes, and he would. It was, he was brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Like I say, got stuck into everything the way life was.
I think it could have been. On his day, he was better than Juninho. He could have been the best player in the world, but it didn't last, did it? Unfortunately, what was the downside of Emo?
Partying.
It's difficult to say, isn't it? I mean, it just got to a point where I don't know what started it off. I don't know whether it was a situation we were in as a team, where we were in the league. I don't know what it was, but he went back to Brazil for a couple of weeks, and he didn't come back. And we nobody knew why.
We were in the quarterfinals of the cup playing Derby. Remember?
It just deteriorate, didn't it? I think it just seemed to deteriorate really quickly. I can't remember why. What actually sparked it off?
It was, I think, Barcelona were in for him.
Bobby Robson and Barcelona.
His head turn.
Yeah, and he did have his head turn, because obviously Bobby had him, hadn't he? At Lisbon, I think.
Porto.
Yeah. Well, Porto, yeah.
Porto, yeah.
And I think he wanted to take him to Barcelona. He'd had a brilliant season. He was obviously good enough to play there. I've got no doubts about that. And I think when the club were digging in a little bit and asking too much money, I think that's when it started. And even then, after that, Juninho ended up going to Atletico, and Emo was sort of still at Boro then. And I think he just felt, he should have been away, and he should have been playing at Barcelona, which, he'd have suited that down to the ground. That would have been Emerson down to the team. And you can half understand why he lost a little bit of his passion for what he was doing, because, to be deprived of a move like that, you'd have been absolutely devastated.
You're right, actually. Yeah, you're right.